Woolly mammoths roamed the earth during the Pleistocene epoch from about 2.6 million to 11,700 years ago. These enormous mammals were perfectly suited to the cold climates of the northern hemisphere, sporting thick coats of fur and an extra layer of fat under their skin for added insulation. They also had large, floppy ears to help them hear predators come in long before they got close enough to be in danger, and they developed large tusks for fighting other males and for helping them strip away the bark of trees to get at the tasty wood underneath. Woolly mammoths went extinct around 10,000 years ago, making them, along with saber-toothed tigers and other Ice Age part of what scientists call the 10,000-year club. But like many of their extinct Pleistocene peers, woolly mammoths haven't been gone for eternity. In fact, their frozen bodies have been discovered so well preserved that we can still find their skin, hair, and even their blood cells intact. So if we want to bring them back, we could, right? Well, maybe. In 2019, scientists announced that they had successfully sequenced the first near-complete woolly mammoth genome. The idea is that if we understand the genetic basis for the traits that make a mammoth, like those big tusks, then we could potentially use that knowledge to recreate the species. Some researchers, however, say that the science isn't quite there yet. For one thing, the mammoth genome contains more than 3 billion base pairs, the S, TS, Gs, and CS that make up DNA. And while the team did manage to sequence 96% of it, there are still some gaps, meaning that the genome isn't complete. So until we fill in those blanks, we won't know if there are any other genes involved in the mammothness of mammoths that we have uncovered yet. But assuming that this 96% is all we need, the next step would be to somehow get that DNA into elephant cells, since elephants are the living creatures most closely related to mammoths. But getting the mammoth genome into an elephant cell is zoomed as easy as just putting 2 and 2 together. That's because elephant and mammoth DNA are actually very, very different. Like 99.4% different. There are only about 4 million base pair differences between the two genomes, which doesn't sound like much when you consider that each one is around 3 billion base pairs long. But those few million differences do make a big difference. The entire genome of modern humans, by comparison, is only about 0.1% different from the genome of our closest living relative, chimpanzee, and we all know how different we are from chimps, right? Not only does this suggest that mammoths and elephants diverged much more recently than we thought, around 4,000 years ago instead of 10,000, but it also means that elephant cells aren't going to accept mammoth DNA without some major coaxing. And coaxing is exactly what's being tested in the lab. Researchers are trying out different methods of editing elephant cells to make them more open to accepting mammoth DNA. But whether or not these methods work will only become clear once they try to put the edited cells back into elephant surrogates and see if they produce little elephants with mammoth DNA. Even if they do, the resulting calves would be mosaics, meaning that not all of their cells contain the mammoth genome. It would take several generations of back and forth editing. Inserting, checking, repeating before you could produce an elephant that was 100% mammoth. And of course, just because you can technically do something doesn't mean you should. Many scientists argue that we should unmess with the genomes of living animals just for the sake of it. And messing with elephant DNA to make room for mammoth DNA could harm the elephants in the process. Plus, bringing back mammoths could disrupt the delicate balance of the ecosystems they would live in. Ecosystems have a certain carrying capacity for each species, meaning that there is only so many individuals of a particular kind that can live in a given area at one time. And if you add too many mammoths to an ecosystem, you could end up with an overpopulation crisis. All of these are valid concerns, but woolly mammoths are pretty huge. And if we could figure out all of the kinks in the system, they might actually help us out in more ways than one. Like, sure, they would be, but they could also help combat climate change by eating their way through all the shrubs and trees in the Arctic and replacing them with grasses, which absorb more carbon dioxide than plants that have woody tissues like shrubs and trees do. So we may never bring woolly mammoths back, but the idea makes us look at the world around us in a whole new light. Maybe we don't need to clone dinosaurs to have a Jurassic Park. Maybe the real Jurassic Park was the friends we made along the way.